Hello, 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 and welcome to the E-Show.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, Allah ka shukar.
Thank you so much for taking time out for me today.
No, for me it's an honor. Always.
So I want to introduce you to my audience, and I want to say that her name is Uzma Sultan, and she is my mother's cousin, and she's my khala. And we have a family member on board today. And she is a life coach. She helps a lot of people. I'm going to let her tell you everything in detail because I feel like she's going to do justice to it and I won't be able to. But she plays a big part in my life, and my my mother giving me permissions to do all of the crazy random things that I'm doing in life is thanks to her. So take it away.
Okay. So my journey started 8 years ago when my 24-year-old son, without any really reason, 3 weeks from the day he fell ill, died.
Yeah.
And those 3 weeks of, I realized later that I was only his mother, actually his mother with no conditions attached. Allah gave me 3 weeks to do that. Had I not been given those 3 weeks, I probably would have not survived this journey in the way that my life has unfolded. I would have probably wallowed in grief and never been able to come out of it. And I know so many mothers who do actually and don't have any tools to come out of it.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I really think that I have been honored and extremely blessed that Allah has a khas divine hand that He's looking out for me, even in this loss.
Yeah.
And my son, who I treated like a lot of mothers do, where I wanted him to be a man of the world, I wanted him to be a certain way, I wanted him to do certain things. And he was not that child. He had his own personality and he was full of love and affection. He was a talker and a storyteller, and he just loved people, and he was a giver. And I just thought he'll always be broke because he doesn't know how to manage money. And I was always getting angry with him. I was always reprimanding him. I was always, expecting things from him that I didn't need to. And I realized after he died everything that he truly was. But it was too late for me to be able to fix it. I couldn't fix it.
Yeah.
And then I started, my other child, who was 17 at the time, was suffering. And she was very angry and very unhappy. And somehow the people that you love the most are the ones that are accountable, so it was all my fault.
Yeah.
Because I was grieving and I didn't know how to help her. And I started this character building class. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Just to help my daughter because she refused to go for therapy. As I was looking for therapy, I couldn't find a grief therapist.
Yeah.
So I enrolled in this program where all these teachers fly in from England called CPPD. In fact, one of my very dear friends now who was part of CPPD was also with me there, is now running it. And I met wonderful people and they became family. And I learned so much about me for the first time that it amazed me that I am in my 40s and I didn't know any of this.
Yeah.
And none of the people around me know any of this that I learned right there and then. So I felt this need to share what I've learned. And going to my son's grave, I realized over the years that he's become my teacher. And I'm not his teacher. And so children actually, I now know, it's not that I realized or I know that children are your teachers. You're not their teachers. So if you want to raise well-rounded, happy children, you have to keep surrendering to them.
Yeah.
You have to keep being there in their environment for them and learning from them, because they're the ones who are so connected to the spirit world when they come. And they're the ones who actually can teach you about love and kindness and empathy, which we've forgotten over the years, you know. The I, the me, there's so much separation in our upbringing and in our raising ourselves and being raised by our environment, and we are so fear-based.
Yeah.
That
what will people say?
It's become really sad to see that हम अपने आप को पहचानते ही नहीं, हम अपने आप को जानते ही नहीं हैं. And so the other part of my story was kun fayakun, because I put on my son's grave kun fayakun. Why I did it, I have no idea. And I used to go to his grave because I used to feel he's here, and I used to go and sit at the grave for hours and days and days and hours, and every day अंधेरा हो जाता था, मुझे रात को भी डर नहीं लगता था, and it's on a hill, so all of defense I can see from there, and it became kind of a comfort zone for me. And then one day I was looking at kun fayakun and I was thinking, why did I say that? Why did I write kun fayakun on Chingiz's grave? And it just hit me that Allah is telling me, you kun, and when you kun, then whatever you decide to be, that's how your life will unfold. And so I started realizing, oh my God, this ayat was for me. It had nothing to do, it wasn't relevant to Chingiz or the grave or anything. And so I started learning. And I am a metric pass who actually landed up researching on quantum physics, and I started I did the first course, the self-development at CPPD, then I did the next course, the certificate, because I couldn't find a grief therapist, so I decided to become a therapist myself. So I did the second level, and then I went, I also had this need to find my son. And because I also knew that I'm always going to be his mother, and हमारे बच्चे दुनिया में कहीं भी चले जाएं पढ़ने, like you are studying, you will always be connected to your mom, right? And I had this very strong need that I don't know where my son in the cosmos is, but I need to connect with him. So I landed up, I found this beautiful friend who's now my friend and almost like a soul sister in New Jersey. She helped me because she was naturally connected and she was a medium. She helped me connect with Chingiz, and I couldn't believe, because she didn't know Chingiz. And she connected with him, and she told me so many things that it amazed me. So then she said, come with me, and we went to this institute called the Monroe Institute, where I learned through meditation, expanded consciousness. Means that you shut down your entire
subconscious mind,
your conscious mind and your senses, which is the sense of touch and taste, because they limit you. Halanki they're very important in the humanness of us. But what happened is that when I learned to tap into my expanded consciousness, you expand yourself beyond your physical self, right?
You
and
lose
that's
the
where,
sense of being.
And so you interact with the spirit world. And so that journey started. And then from there I went to the psychic school, then I went to this organization called the Womanllly. And I have come across people that amaze me. I didn't even know that is tarah ke log exist. So it just boggled my mind that actually we have so limited ourselves. जिस environment में हम पले और बड़े हैं, वो इतना closed और limited है. And there is a cosmos of information and knowledge out there that is so evolving and so freeing if you learn to surrender. And so from a metric pass to having done all these workshops and courses and actually sitting and studying, there was a time when I was reading 3 to 4 books at one time. And I would wonder, what am I doing? Not only that, I was also researching the Quran because I really needed to understand from the Quran, where is my son? What does death mean? How is sleep and death so similar? Where are the heavens? What does it even mean to be in a heaven? You know, except the Sattar Hure and all of that. I mean, I needed to go beyond that. Na? So very interesting actually. When I started researching, you know, they say when you are ready, then the master comes. And all these masters have come into my life. And as I started evolving and learning all of this, I realized this needs to be shared. And especially with grief, we don't know how to manage our grief. To be able to even understand the meaning of the word grief, it boggled my mind when I understood that grief actually it's the distance between what you want and you can't have. Depends on how big your distance is, you see. And losing a child, the distance is so vast, it's infinite. And on the surface you look fine and you meet people, but you can't connect because you're living with this discomfort within you, this brokenness, and this brokenness is so deep it's endless. It's like in an abyss that you keep falling and
Yeah.
falling. Your mother, your sister, your brothers, your siblings, your husband. And another thing that I need to tell everybody is that grief cannot be shared. My husband and I have been best friends, but grief is something that we couldn't share.
Yeah.
Because he grieved differently and I grieved differently. My child grieved differently.
Yeah.
And then with grief and loss of a child especially, you're not the same people anymore. That's why a lot of people get divorced.
Because you lose a part of yourself.
Yes, you lose
in the
most of
process.
yourself.
You mentioned that you went into this dark sort of time, but instead of going towards the dark path, you chose the light. So how would you advise people to go towards the light and not the darkness? Because it's very hard for people who are going through such a dark phase and this extreme, pain in their bodies and in their minds. How would you sort of tell them to not go towards it? Because it's very hard. It's obviously easier said than done, but you're someone who's experienced it. So what is your advice to them?
So actually, when you have nothing, then you hang on to hope.
Yeah.
And if you're a believer, like we all say that we do believe, right?
Yeah.
Now, you may not be religious, but a lot of people are not religious, but they're believers. At the time, I was very religious in my own way.
Yeah.
My standards ke hisab se.
Yeah.
I had learned to become very religious. And I always believed. So when Chingiz died, I never questioned why.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I can't answer that.
Yeah.
But I never said, why did this happen to me?
Yeah.
But what I did was I hung on to this hope. And my every dua, with every namaz, and every time I cried, I sat and I said, I don't know why you've put me in these shoes. I was a happy-go-lucky, fun-loving, careless, not a care in the world, always enjoying myself, lots and lots of friends kind of person. And here I am in this dark, dark place, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
So my prayer became, I don't know why you've put me here, but I'm asking you and you alone to show me the way.
Yeah.
And to guide me. And what am I supposed to do with this loss?
Yeah.
And Eisha, you will not believe. I would open the Quran ki ayat. The first ayat, I remember I used to sit on my patio outside all night when my daughter and my husband used to be sleeping in the room. See, we all slept in one room for months.
Yeah.
And I opened my Quran on my iPad, and the first ayat that popped out said, O you who believe need not have fear and grief in your hearts.
Yeah.
And I thought, what the hell is Allah talking about?
Yeah.
I'm full of fear and I'm full of grief. So fear and grief kind of rung a bell that God is saying need not have. Iman walo, the ones who believe. And here I'm saying I'm a believer, but I live with that. And I started researching on these two words in the Quran. What does Allah mean when He says need not have fear? It's not in our hands.
Yeah.
And so the journey of quantum physics started.
Yeah.
And I came across so much information, and slowly I started realizing, oh my God, there's something from ghaib happening.
Yes.
I wasn't looking for it, it was coming to me.
Yeah.
There was a time when I was gifted 2, 3, 4. One of the books that I was given by this very nice couple that come in from London, and they gave me this book called Proof of Heaven. It actually, when I read the book, 80% of what was in the Quran, what I was researching, kind of tied that up.
Yeah.
Then I got this other book which actually boggled my mind, was The Laws of the Spirit World.
Oh.
It's a true story of a mother who's lost her 2 children. So when I started reading her journey and her interviews and all of that, so lots and lots of information started coming, and it was that hope that these women have survived and so will I.
Yeah.
And then as I started looking for Chingiz, I remember the first time I went to the Monroe Institute in Virginia, the teachers sit down with you one-on-one, they do a 5-minute interaction to understand why you are here, and they asked me, why are you here? And without hesitation, I said, I'm here to find my son. And he smiled at me and he said, sometimes, Uzma, we are looking to go in this direction, and those directions become our stepping stone into where we really need to be.
Yeah.
And that's how these things started unfolding. You have to not give up.
Yeah.
I never gave up the search of my son. He was not in humanness, but he
Yeah.
was alive in spirit, right?
Yes.
And I started actually learning all that. And as I was learning, somehow mothers started coming to me, or I'd start unconsciously, it would come into my conscious life. I'd find
Yes.
a parent who'd lost a child. I would go there and I'd meet them and I'd say, I discovered my son and he sends me signs and messages, and I always see a feather.
Yes, I was just about to say there was
Yes.
some feather in the tub, right?
Yes, there were feathers all over the place. I always now, the feathers are a part of my journey. Lights flick around me. I know when Chingiz is there. I think of him
But
suddenly.
why feathers?
So the spirit world communicates in a certain way. You'll either see, somebody'll see butterflies, somebody'll see feathers, somebody'll see a certain kind of bird that'll keep coming up.
Okay, so it's the same sort of genre.
Yes. For different people, it's different, and it actually gives you a little sign. You become conscious of those things. Like I see a lot of numbers, and I was wondering why.
I see a lot of angel numbers like 444,
That's
3332 all the time, but I don't know what it means.
So now I need you to understand, numerology is a very old science, and I didn't know what it meant. So things like that started happening. And I actually, when I started seeing these numbers, they were so often in the face that I started actually taking even screenshots.
Yes, I do the same thing.
And not only in the phone, I'd see them in the car, I'd see them on the road, I'd see them house number.
Yes.
And so I started researching on them. And then again, like you said, the angel numbers. Now we have two angels. We believe as Muslims we have two angels
yes.
in our life. Why don't we believe that we are surrounded by angels?
Yeah.
And different angels for different things are always in our environment. They come and go.
Yeah.
So now I hear the flapping of wings. I mean, it sounds really crazy to a hell of a lot of people. But when you connect to the spirit world, you start hearing and seeing things that are amazing, are beyond your imagination. I'm never lonely.
Yeah.
I can sit alone. I should not be saying that, but I have to say that a person like me enjoyed that COVID lockdown like I can't even tell you, because I'm never alone. I had so much time to connect with beyond what meets the eye. And there's so much out there, and I was taught and trained to protect myself from the dark side, and there's only the light. Fear is what gets you down and into the dark side.
And I feel like fear, sorry I'm cutting you off, but I feel like what you fear you ultimately manifest. So I feel like what you fear for the longest time, it happens to you, because your subconscious mind is constantly thinking about it and creating situations that do not exist until it's your reality.
So this is what I teach now. What I teach is, if you know if you know yourself, which is your soul, you know your mind, which, how does the mind work? Nobody's taught us in school. I don't know why. The brain has a very specific thought process, and it works in a very specific manner. The soul works in a very specific manner. The body is the house of the soul that works in a very specific manner. Nobody's taught us that. I've learned all of that over this 8-year journey, and this is what I teach. So I do character building classes, which I stopped because of COVID, where I work with teenagers and I help them heal and to be able to see their parents for who they are, and to be able to see themselves in this web of life that we are so intermingled in. We've forgotten who we are and we're confused. That's why there's a battle with teenagers and parents. And actually it's the parents who need the help to manage the teenagers so that they're able to define the difference between themselves and their children. We're so needy of our children that we create this need where we make our children feel that you make us feel better. And you be a good little boy or you be a good little girl, so that we can feel good about ourselves, and then we will say, you've done a good job. But if the child doesn't make us feel like that, then we're very unhappy with our children. I did that with my son. And now I see that difference between my son, raising of my son, and how I deal with my daughter. She's happier. I am happier because I'm not so needy of her. I have allowed her to be and to get out into the world and make magic, her own magic. I may not agree with everything my child says or does, but I'm okay with it because I've learned to surrender. I've learned to accept my child for who my child is. I wasn't able to do that with my son. So this entire journey of grief, beta, is about letting go, surrendering, being. Kun. Allah जो कहता है ना kun faya kun, He's telling you, me, and everybody around us, it's not just for Hazrat Isa. It is for you and me, that you be. And when you be, then you will manifest what you are. So if you really want to know what's happening in your life is only going to unfold the way you are.
Yeah.
So if things are not working out, question yourself, what am I not doing right? Not what he or she or he is not doing right in your life.
Yeah.
It's what am I not doing right in my life.
Yeah.
When I start looking inwards, then I will find the magic in me, because the magic is inside me, because God resides inside me, not outside me.
Yeah.
He's not in my namaz, he's not in my roza and my hajj and my zakat, he's inside me.
Yeah.
So as I discover me, I will discover God, because he and I are not separate.
Yeah,
And he
we are
says in the
one.
Quran, if only you knew I'm closer to you than your sharak. And so this life, as it was unfolding, I realized, oh my God, I'm tapping into God. Every time I tap into me, I discover something about my God.
Yeah.
And now God is not in my namaz, he's in my breath. Because about the breath, I realize, सोल की स्टोरी हमें पूरे जिंदगी सिखाएगी हुई है, मौलवी साहबों ने, माँ बाप ने, नानी नाना ने, किसी ने बताया where does the soul live in your body? Have you ever been told? Do you know? So, nobody's even taught us something as basic as where does our soul live in this entire body.
Yeah.
I just discovered a few years ago, and it just blew me away. The soul lives between our two breaths. It is in the inhale and the exhale resides our soul. And every time we feel anxiety, people say breathe. If you have a medical issue, people say breathe. Before sports and before any kind of meditation, you are made to do conscious breathing.
Yeah.
The oldest of oldest, all religions teach you some kind of breath work. But nobody discusses why. Because actually your soul lives between your breaths. And when you connect with your soul, you have to connect with your breath. And when you do connect with your soul, then the chatter of the brain stops. That's how anxiety subsides. When you're feeling anxious, और अगर आप conscious breathing करें, तो आपका जो chatter है of the brain stops, and you connect with your soul. And as you connect with your soul, there's calmness. The brain has a chatter, so that's why it's called the monkey brain, right?
Yeah.
Now, what is the job of the monkey brain? It only lives in the future, and it only knows the past.
Yeah.
That is why, there's a surah in the Quran about time. It's very short, and it tells you, if only you knew what time is. Time is relevant to the brain only, because on Earth there is time. Outside Earth, when you sit in a rocket and go into space, it's timelessness.
Yeah.
It's infinite.
Yeah.
And time is therefore only relevant to our brains.
Yeah.
We need time on Earth because the brain works in the future and the past, the future and the past. It doesn't know this moment.
Yeah.
Because in this moment it's timeless. Do you understand?
Yeah.
The power of now ki kitab suni hai?
Ji.
What is the power of now? It's the most powerful space that we have, because God resides in the now.
Yeah.
But we don't know how to. We reside either in the past
Or in
and
the
the future, because our brains have been trained to do that. It's a
Yeah.
computer. It's like artificial intelligence. It's taken us over.
Yeah.
So there are no tools for the brain. There are no tools for the soul. There are no tools. And this is what I've learned, and this is what I teach. So I do consultations with people generally, just to help them heal and to manage the baggage that we carry from our childhood. All of us are carrying the baggage of our childhood, and we
Yeah.
spend a lifetime trying to get rid of it.
Yes.
Because our parents don't know better, and their parents didn't know better, and their parents didn't know better, and the journey continues again and again and again. So it's an unfolding, like an onion, layer after layer after layer. You unfold your life till you get to the core,
Yeah.
and that's who you are, the core.
Yeah.
That's where God resides. You and He are one. There's no difference. Allah said, "Na, मैंने अपना नूर तुम्हारे अंदर फूंका हुआ है." A part of His essence is inside you.
Yeah.
So when you connect with His essence, I connect with my son. I connect with the cosmos. I don't grieve like other mothers do, because I am
Yeah.
always connected with my son, is always accessible to me.
Yeah.
And that's what I teach when I teach grief. I teach mothers to connect with the essence of the child. The problem is that we are looking for our child in the physical.
Yeah.
So whether we've lost a child or a husband or a sibling, the problem always resides is we're looking for them in the physical. They're not physical. They're like, and also to tell you that they exist. How do we know that our child exists, or that our sibling exists after they've passed away, or our spouse exists? We don't know that, you see, because we believe there's a barrier between them and us.
Yeah.
But
we let the logical mind interfere.
yes, and all our
Yeah.
teachings and learnings, without any proof, without any basis, we believe, right? We don't. How many times has any one of us opened the Quran to say, is this what our parents have taught us? Is it exactly?
Yeah.
We learn from a Maulvi Sahab who is probably not educated himself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we just like a parrot say our namaz. What are we saying also sometimes we don't know. I
Yeah.
learned the meaning of my namaz. And so that when I am saying that, then I'm connected to God. That I am standing in front of my Creator, and yet, so that's where the anxiety and pain and suffering and discomfort comes. You see,
Yeah.
as you get connected, you surrender. I surrender to what is. I surrender that my son is in spirit. I'm actually happy for him. He doesn't have to live in this painful physical world. Had he been alive, with his kidneys had failed and he was on dialysis, he would have lost his friends eventually. He would have become frail. I would be hurting. He would be hurting. That was no life for him.
Yeah.
In his prime, in his happiest moments, he went. It's very painful for me. Even now, I can jump into that old pattern because my brain, my computer has it logged somewhere, that old pattern, that loss.
Yeah.
But today, alhamdulillah, I have the tools to get out of there and into the moment. And in that moment, every moment is this moment. And as this moment goes by, there's nothing else.
Yeah.
So that's what we need to learn, is when we are in a state of discomfort, we're always either in the past or the future.
Yeah. They say, the past is history and the future is mystery. And today is a gift, which is why it's known as present.
Yes.
Yeah.
So यही बात तो समझने वाली है. अब ये बातें तो सबको पता है.
Yeah.
मगर क्यों ऐसे है,
Yeah.
ये नहीं पता.
Yeah.
The day you start discovering that, then you start rewiring your brain. And as you start rewiring your brain, then magic happens.
Yeah.
पूरी ज़िंदगी I've heard कि अल्लाह की मर्ज़ी, it wasn't meant to be, but I've realized on this journey that अल्लाह मियाँ जो है वो this governing of the cosmos happens not by your prayers, but it happens by his laws, like the law of gravity, the law of oneness, the law of attraction, the law of polarity.
Yeah.
So actually, if you really want to connect with Allah, you need to understand his laws.
Yeah.
And learn them and understand them.
And there's so many, because I was trying to study them. And my favorite one is the law of assumption. I really like that, because you can assume anything. You don't know what's going on in the other person's mind.
Of course not.
And when you assume so much that it becomes your reality, in a way. And then again, you said, when I was learning meditation, when I was on this journey of self-awareness and everything, they always told me, focus is the key, and the easiest way is to focus on your breath. So now I actually understand why.
Yes.
You
So the why has not been answered. Everybody is learning mindfulness, we are learning yoga, we are learning so many things, but the why behind it needs to be answered.
Yes.
जब एक इंसान को the why behind everything that he's doing, why being religious? If you want to know why you need to be religious, then it'll be so
Because
much
सब कहते
easier.
हैं.
हाँ, क्योंकि it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I was like a hunter. My father, not my mother, used to make us say our namaz. But why? I was the one who always questioned, and that's why I was always in the door. I've been thrown out of so many Quran classes because I asked questions, and they said you're off track.
Me too. At times, some of the older people around me, they
Offended.
go completely ballistic on me because I'm asking a simple question. And I feel like that's why I've been a very curious and very sort of like naughty, because I was always very curious. Why aren't you giving me a proper answer? Like someone said to me, do not pierce your ears. I said, why? They said, because I don't like it. I went and I got my ears pierced the next week. And then that had always happened. Whenever you stop me without giving me a reason, I'm not saying logic, I'm saying reasoning. Why not? And it's not satisfied, then I will do exactly that.
So that is because you are free-spirited and connected. And when you don't get your answers, you stand up for yourself because it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people have been subdued into going along. So we become like a bakra ke इसकी रस्सी इसके हाथ में भी है, अम्मी के हाथ में भी, अब्बू के हाथ में भी, भाई के हाथ में भी, बहन के हाथ में भी है, मियाँ के हाथ में भी है, सास के हाथ में भी है, and you don't even know you're living a life of a goat.
Yeah.
And you live your entire life like that till one day when it's too late, you're so unhappy. That's why आपको पता है ना कुछ ऐसे बड़े बूढ़े होते हैं जो दादियाँ नानियाँ that you don't want to be around.
वो bitter हो जाती
Because
हैं.
उनका अंदर से ढक्कन खुल जाता है and the actual self that they cannot contain and put a lid on comes out.
Yeah.
And they're unhappy because they've not lived their life on their own terms.
Yeah.
So for the first time with losing my child, I learned to live life on my own terms, which actually kind of sometimes used to shock my husband,
Yeah.
but he was okay with it because he's been my friend, you see. So he allowed me to be who I am, and he accepted me for what I was doing. And therefore but with or without his permission, I was going to do it.
Yeah.
He also knows that about me,
Yeah.
like you said. I was in a boarding school from the age of 9. I was always in the doghouse because I didn't follow rules. So today I understand why was I like that, because this is exactly where I was meant to be.
Yeah.
And this is what I was supposed to learn, because this is what I'm supposed. Today I understand. I've lost Chingiz, and so many children have become a part of my life journey. I have children that text me on a daily basis. I have children who text me every 6 months. I have children who still call me and say, we are going to come over and spend the evening with you. I am never alone. My daughter lives in Seattle, and she keeps saying, I'll come back. And I say, you go live your life. My life is full. It's full, it's gratifying, and I know my purpose. Every one of us has a purpose.
Yeah.
And if we don't discover our purpose, we're like a log which is drifting like driftwood on the sea, nowhere to go, just going along where the wave
water,
takes you.
Yeah.
So if you know your purpose, then you know this is why you are here, and you're doing that, and it's unfolding. And every second of my life is magical, and all of this has happened because of Chingiz.
Wow. So Uzma Khala, thank you so much.
You're most welcome, always.
For taking time out for me. I got really emotional a couple of times in the middle. We had to stop in between as well. And I just want to ask you, because you are very approachable for me, but you might not be for other people. So what is the way that other people can approach you if they're going through a similar
So
trauma?
I now do consultations one-on-one. I charge for that because
As you should.
Yes, I've learned to do that also, and I'm happy to help somebody who really can't afford it, or somebody who's lost a child and all of that. But because now there were so many people coming, and I am actually busy a few hours a day every day, and even in the nights, because there are some people who live abroad.
Yeah.
And so the day night ka difference
Yeah.
hota. So even in the evening, late at night, I don't mind. I have that page called Kun with Uzma, and then by hearsay, actually so and so gave so and so's number. It goes, and my number is available to anybody who wants it.
Yeah.
On Kun with Uzma, my number is there, so they can always call or message. On the Kun page also, you can message me and get an appointment. A lot of people do that also.
All right.
Who have heard of me through the Kun page, they do that.
I'll put a link to it.
Yeah. And other than that, it's basically word of
Mouth.
Word of mouth. Like a very interesting story, just to end it. How magic actually happens is, when you need to connect with somebody. There was a young boy who'd gone to a bakery, and he'd gone to get a cake, and that lady in the bakery said, in Lahore, and that lady in the bakery said, why haven't I seen you in such a long time? He said, because my brother passed away and my mother's really, really suffering. And she said, really? She said, can you hold on a minute because I saw this lady's interview and I'm going to give you her link. Tell your mother to connect with her. So that lady gave a link to this boy, and this boy called me and said, my mother's lost a child, I've lost my brother, can you help? And I said, how did you get my number? And he said, I went to a bakery and that lady saw your interview, she asked me why I hadn't come, and I have connected with so many people like that. This is one story. The other mother whose son died abroad in the US, her only child actually, same age as Changiz, she had this, like her son was talking to her and said, open Facebook, you will find her. Open Facebook, Ma, you'll find her. And she just opened Facebook and there was a picture of my son and he looks exactly like him.
Changiz?
Yes, that boy looks like Changiz, and she was shocked. And then she looked at the name and it said Uzma Sultan. And her name is also Uzma. So she said, there's a sign in here. And she found out, what am I doing? And she realized this boy has passed away, like her son had. They were the same age. And she called me and said, are you the Uzma who's lost her son? I am an Uzma who's lost her son.
Oh my God.
So I mean, there's so many stories like that.
Yeah.
That it kind of, I know this is not me. This has got nothing to do with me. It's something happening from the cosmos.
Yeah.
And it's coming down to me and them, and we are connecting. Like so many people connected, so many beautiful people have come into my life.
Yeah.
So when the teacher, when the person is ready, the teacher comes. When the student is ready, the teacher comes. And whenever anybody needs me and the time is right, they'll find me.
Yeah.
So I'm not very concerned or worried about that. It just
Yeah.
happens by magic. It was lovely talking to you,
Likewise.
Isha.
Thank you so
Meri
much
Jaan. And
for
I
taking
hope
time
that this
out.
interview becomes magical for you,
Yes.
and all your interviews, and may you make magic in the world.
Thank you
And may
so
you
much.
discover what you're here for.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you so
most
much.
welcome.
Oh my God. I've never cried in an interview before.